Thank you.
Great, we'll move on to second place.
Thank you. Yeah, let's jump to the next slide. Next one. Yeah, let me present myself. My name is Dmitry. Basically, my team was just me. I landed the second place. Yeah, a few words about myself. I'm based in Vienna, in Austria. And I've been competing on Kaggle for quite a while, I think like 11 years. So my profile picture pretty much emphasizes how much younger I was when I started. So I had some prior experience with Kaggle before starting this. Let's jump to the details. Probably 3 big blocks about my solution. Pre-processing, the training, and post-processing. I don't think I have too many like specific details or specific creative tricks about the solution, but I will emphasize those things that were important for this competition. But all in all, pretty much these 3 blocks were the pillars of the solution. So to do some pre-processing, then to train a very straightforward bag of debug models, and then to run some post-processing to optimize certain things and to fix certain other data-specific issues. Let's start with the pre-processings. I kind of mixed them because some of the pre-processing required post-processings and vice versa. First thing I did, and that actually was possible because of the way the data was structured. It was pre-split into words, but in an interesting way. That allowed me to pretty much convert the targets from BIO format to just a simple one-hot encoding sort of a format. So all BIO tags could be just removed. So all the name student subclasses can be merged into a single class 1 and so forth. And the way the data was structured, I believe if there were like 2 sequential names, there was always a word or a white space word in between them, which was classified as a 0 or O. So it was possible to precisely convert back and forth these classes. I saw it as a benefit because I decreased number of classes to classify, so down from 13 to 7, I think. And that allowed me pretty much, maybe if needed, to create some certain labels that didn't even exist in training. I don't think it was there. For instance, if you had like 2 sequential IDs, then I can automatically convert it to BID and IID, even if I've never seen IIDs in training. So that was the way to kind of compensate of the sparsity of some classes, and just to have fewer number of classes for the target. Sorry, let's jump back. I had the second point there to the previous slide. Yep. A very quick one for tokenization. As I was applying Deberta, pretty much I was just tokenizing the words and then mapping it to the original words that were labeled. So to simplify my life, I just used split into words. There is a parameter, so basically I took the words and tokenized the individual words and not the entire text. That simplified the mapping back of the predictions and made them pretty much independent of the tokenizer the model requires. But yeah, nothing major here. Let's move on to the next slide. The external data set, that was an interesting topic in this competition. I used only one external data set, which was pretty much the most popular one and the one that boosted CV and leaderboard mostly for everyone in the competition, according to the forum. It was generated by Mixtral model and Faker to generate the personal information there. I used it with the lower weights than the original training data, a couple of different weights. My personal takeaway, my personal rather guts feeling here is that the impact is quite limited. I don't think it was a big impact, and I think the major impact was coming from exactly sparse classes, because in the training data, I believe we have like 2 addresses altogether. Like each address contained multiple words. So if you run statistics, you will see like 30 or 40, but in reality, we had only 2 addresses. And they were very, very exactly, very strictly formatted there. So I tend to believe that external data sets allow the models to predict better these sparse classes, especially those that required some different formats of the inputs, especially the address, which was quite interesting because I had a couple of experiments, and I tend to believe that the format of the address was not precisely followed in public leaderboard data somehow, but in the training it was like exactly 2 representations of exactly the same format. But still, as long as it was improving both CV and the leaderboard, I blended it in just together with the training data, and that gave me a little bit of a boost pretty much on everything. I think cross-validation, public, and I think private leaderboard as well. Let's go to the next important things. Yeah, it seems that the data you had, the personal information in the text, they were these data points were generated or taken from elsewhere and replaced in the original text. I think a few people noticed that, because if you take one text, you will see some inconsistency, like the name stated in the email and the name of the person, they just don't match, that sort of thing. But I think one of the artifacts of this process was the address and /n token, which was quite interesting. So these 2 addresses had the /n token, and this token, this word has never appeared anywhere else in the entire data set. So it was probably taken from the data generation process, while the rest of the text were processed in such a way that the /n token has never appeared anywhere else. So it was a very, very easy post-processing. Just wherever you see /n, it's an address, which boosted the score quite significantly because the scores were very high, and the competition was about just a few words which were difficult to predict. So adding just a /n as a 100% address prediction boosted the score quite well, especially given the conversion of the classes I had, because I fixed this token and the next token, which became I address and not B address any longer. And the post-processing, one more I did out of the 2 important ones. Yeah, let's go to the next slide, 41. Propagating the predicted name. The goal was to boost recall. We're talking about a 5-score metrics, which is very sensitive to recall, not that much to precision. So capturing more classes was really important. So what worked quite well for me, if there was a word that was predicted by a model as a name class, I just marked all the occurrences of exactly the same word in the entire text as the name class prediction. So if there are 5 occurrences of Dmitry in the document and only 2 or 3 of them were actually recognized as the name by the model, I just enforced all the occurrences also to be predicted as name. And that boosted recall, of course, and that improved F5 score. But that required me also to do some cleaning afterwards, because there could be examples. One model, for instance, recognizes a single dot if there's Dr. or Mr. something like that as a part of the name. And once you propagate it, you are pretty much marking every single dot in the entire document as a name, which ruins the precision. So a little bit of a cleaning was required to boost the score a little bit further. Stuff like 2 short names, like 1 symbol, or the names that have special symbols or numbers in it. But other than that, these are the 2 most important post-processings that I ran. Optimizing a 5 score. That's the last step of the inference. So the model outputs the probabilities of each individual class, but we needed to compete on the F5 score, and that one is pretty much is a score that combines recall and precision, with the recall being much more important, Therefore, like using just a simple argmax would not work. Of course, we need to kind of overly predict the target labels to boost the F5 scores. There are a couple of approaches to do so. I followed quite a simplified one. So introduced one parameter, which was a number below 0 that I multiply the probabilities of 0 class by. So I'm forcing the probabilities of the 0 class to be lower before running argmax. So if there's a 60% probability that it's O, and I multiplied, I think the final value was around 3%, 0.03. So I really push it down. So from 60%, it would have dropped to, I think, 18%. And then argmax would have taken the other class that had the higher probability, be it name, address, or something else. So by introducing this parameter, I was able to optimize a 5 score just by finding what's the optimal value of that parameter, which works well both on CV, but we can also do it on a public leaderboard score. So if there's an independent sample, like public leaderboard, it is also easy to submit few values to see what's the optimal one. But it was not an issue. It was always converging to approximately the same number for all the submits I had. And now let's go to the modeling. Just a quick summary, because there's, again, not much. I think it's quite a straightforward training, because I used Jupyter v3 large as the backbone. I tried others, but they just didn't work as well as this one. And I just played with hyperparameters to see what works best. Maximum length, I managed to go all the way up to 2000, and that was enough. I think I had a couple of experiments of longer context, but the texts were short enough. Stride 32, but it didn't have much impact. Batch size 8, also not that important. Learning rate, I had 4 epochs, 1 epoch warm-up. That gave me some sort of like a stable results. But not fully stable. I think it was mentioned by the winning team as well that the same reruns of the same model can give quite different scores based on both CV and public leaderboard. So by just repeating the same routine over and over with the full training data set and submitting it, it was easy to recognize that the scores are very much unstable. In order to compensate that, I did bagging, which usually works and was probably one of the first times it didn't really work. So even blending like 5, 6, 7, I think I went up to 8 runs of the same model. And if you repeat the same process and have another 8 runs, the score will still be quite volatile. So to further compensate that, I tried playing with the parameters in the bag of the models. So the final one, the one that got me the second place, it had a certain variation with different max length, with different external data weight, and it was surprisingly just 6 runs. Though I could have, I had enough runtime to fit more. And it was, to a certain extent, a lucky bag, I think, because I tried different ones. And the one that was best on the private leaderboard was the one that also gave me the best score on the public leaderboard. So all in all, it was a little bit also kind of a lottery in the end, to be honest, with decimal points and the exact choice of which bag and of which models to pick. But it worked out for me in the end. And that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask now, or we can have the joint Q&A afterwards.